So today in this video we'll be talking about why you should form a company in Isle of Man. What are the benefits? What are the requirements? How much it's going to cost? And how it's going to benefit your business, right? Let's get started. So some of the top advantages that bring investors to the Isle of Man are it's very easy to incorporate. So offshore Isle of Man company registration is simple and fast, and there is very low taxation. There is a zero corporate income tax for many types of activities. It's especially good for the investor who wish to also be closely located in UK or rest of the Europe. Infrastructure is really good. The Isle of Man may be small, however it offers great connectivity and has good power and telecom infrastructure. Business environment is really good. The Isle of Man welcomes foreign investors and has maintained a successful business and investment space by making its laws simple and efficient. In addition to these advantages, they are primarily focused for entrepreneurs. The Isle of Man also offers good living conditions with low crime rates and low personal income tax. It's a very small, isolated island located in the Irish Sea, which gives foreign investors access to an independent territory which follows the law of and regulations of Great Britain. With strong connections with the UK, the Isle of Man, also known as Man, MANN, offers a great investment environment in industries such as finance, insurance, and online gaming. It also the Isle of Man is the fifth richest territory in the world, based on its gross domestic product per capita, according to the World Bank. Foreign investors who want to open companies can close between various structures. Um, they can choose between various structures that are presented by Isle of Man company formation agents. There are two different kind of acts which is applicable if you register a company in Isle of Man. The number one is company per 1931 Act, and number two is company per 2006 Act. The minimum share capital for a limited company in Isle of Man is £2,000. Um, the minimum number of shareholders for a limited company is number one. It takes around 1 to 3 days to incorporate your company. There is 0% corporation tax in Isle of Man. Dividend tax rate depends upon where the dividend is paid to. If you are living in UK, if you are a UK resident, there will be you will be liable for UK dividend tax. VAT rate is 20%, which is similar to UK, but obviously in UK, if you don't do business more than £68,000, you don't register for VAT. You don't necessarily have to pay the VAT. I think it's the same applicable here. Shelf companies are not available here. You need to have a registered office address here. No virtual service is allowed. Um, Dependent on the business activity, if the company falls within the IOM substance rule, then it will require a IOM director, which is a local director in living in Isle of Man. There is one annual meeting required. There is re-domiciliation permitted. Electronic signatures are permitted, and you have to fill annual return. And you could be a 100% foreign resident, but you could own 100% of the company. um, Types of companies available in Isle of Man. Investors who are interested in setting up a company in Isle of Man can choose between the limited liability company and the partnership according to the Companies Act. However, there are other laws that provide for trust and foundations, which represents important tax planning tools in the Isle of Man. One of the most sought type of company in the Isle of Man is the offshore company, which is suitable for various activities and offers many advantages. Offshore companies are governed by the International Business Act of 1994. Investors can register their chosen type of company themselves or talk to one of the agents available locally who provide corporate incorporation service. There are three types of company account. There are three types of company incorporation, differentiated by the time it needs to complete the registration. The first one is the standard incorporation, takes place around within 48 hours and will include a fee of £100. The 2-hour incorporation is possible when the documentation for registration are submitted before 2:30 p.m. during a business day. The fast track incorporation can take place while the applicant wait for the service to be completed and will cost more than the previous two types. This very fast incorporation is possible when all the documentations are received before 4 p.m. on a business day. The very fast incorporation procedure is an important advantage for investor. However, entrepreneurs must keep in mind that this is only possible when the applicant has paid the fee and has chosen a unique company name. Otherwise, the process will be longer when some of the steps need to be remade. So what are the different steps you have to follow, or different requirement you need to follow to open an offshore company in Isle of Man? There is a capital requirement. There is a minimum cost. Investors who open an offshore company in the Isle of Man benefit from a simple incorporation procedure. Moreover, there is no requirement for minimum authorized share capital. Shareholder compliance. Shareholders are not constrained by any nationality or residency requirements. An offshore company may be formed by one or more shareholders, either individuals or legal persons. Director compliance. An Isle of Man offshore company needs at least one director who can also be natural or legal person. The identity of the company directors are available in public registry. Registered address. An offshore company is the Isle of Man. An offshore company in the Isle of Man will be required to have a local physical office on the Isle. Appointing a local registered agent who is duly licensed is also required. A secretary can also be appointed. This is one of the biggest cost when you register the company in Isle of Man. Corporate compliance. The general annual compliance requirement are light. Companies are expected to keep accounting records and prepare their financial statement. General meetings are not compulsory. Requirements to open an offshore company in the Isle of Man is the formation of an offshore in the Isle of Man implies the registration of limited liability company. The following condition must be fulfilled in order to open an offshore company in Isle of Man. Choosing a company name which must end up with limited or LTD or public limited company or PLC. Appointing a company director who must not necessarily be a resident. Preparing the documents for incorporation, having a legal address in Isle of Man, and open a bank account in the Isle of Man. Even if the offshore company is registered in the Isle of Man, its activities cannot be undertaken here. Our local advisor available can assist businessmen who want to open non-resident Isle of Man bank accounts. The company must have to file an annual return regardless or not the company has recorded trading activities over the past years. The fees for annual return filing vary according to the type of company, or less for standard companies and higher for companies that are registered as charity. Penalties apply for failure to file these returns, and account actions may be taken upon the company officers. In some situations, the company can be unregistered. The company detail can be changed after the Isle of Man company registration process by filing in the appropriate forms. The registered office and the details of the directors and secretary can be changed. Certain fee apply for these changes, and they are higher if more than 3 months pass between the time and the date occur at the date at which the change is registered. As far as the company management is concerned, investors in the Isle of Man can appoint a nominated officer or a nominee director shareholder. This is done in order to increase the level of confidentiality for the company's beneficial owner, the shareholder who actually owns shares and receive the dividends. The condition to appoint a nominated officer is for he to be an Isle of Man resident. The officer will be the one who to hold the relevant information on the beneficial owner. One of the rules, Isle of Man company formation agent can give you more detail about the requirements for appointing a nominee shareholder. So if you are interested, then you can go and connect with any agents locally available in Isle of Man and form your company.